Deb is on the line, is that right?
That's
Okay.
correct. Hello.
Fantastic. Hi, Deb. Good to have you with us virtually. All right, we'll begin then the joint meeting for Rules and Open Government Committee and Committee for the Whole for Wednesday, March 25th. As a result of the changes in state law from the governor's order, we are going to be proceeding differently as we have been for this week with all meetings. We are providing, apparently we are providing public access, it looks like, for public comment. For today, okay. It looks like that's going to be changing because we're going to need to abide by some state and county rules. So we'll certainly proceed now, and we appreciate everyone's attending to and abiding by all of the physical distancing rules as we continue to try to ensure we have public awareness and access at the same time that we keep people safe. We have a quorum. I know that Councilmember Davis is on the line, and all four of the remaining members of the committee are present.
Still need to do roll call.
We still do? Okay.
it's
All right,
the
Tony.
law.
Yeah.
Mayor Liccardo,
Here.
Vice Mayor Jones,
Here.
Arenas,
Here.
Davis,
Here.
Camus.
Here.
And we'll need to do that for every vote.
Okay, and we will. Fantastic. So there's no meeting.
Mayor, just a second, I'm
Yes,
sorry.
sure.
It's really hard for me to hear Tony, but I can hear everyone else with a mic this time.
Okay, so we're going to ask Tony to speak into her mic very directly.
Okay.
And the final agenda for April 7th is what we'll turn to because the 31st is canceled. So let's start on pages 4 and 5. Are there any changes to that agenda?
I just want to note that the very first page above call to order, we're going to have a very long section explaining to the public how they can access the meeting through, for just watching, for submitting public comments, both verbally and written. And that will be out on the agenda on Friday, so everybody will have everything they need.
Okay, great. Pages 6 and 7. All right. Changes to pages 8 and 9. All right, changes to pages 10 and 11. Um, 3.3 is just acceptance of report, right? There's no action. That's the estimated budgetary impacts of COVID.
That's correct.
Okay, great. Thanks, Dave. And what I'm going to do, I think with Rules Committee approval, is I'd like to hear 3.1 first before consent, just to ensure that, oh yeah, that's already marked there. Okay,
Yeah, we
great.
designated that.
That's already
Based
designated.
on your
Perfect.
comments yesterday.
Perfect, thank you. Pages 12 and 13. Pages 14 and 15. And page 16. I don't think there are any ads, and I don't have any cards, do I, Henry? Nope.
I have all the cards that I've gotten.
Oh, okay, oh, thank you.
Motion to approve the council agenda for Tuesday, April 7th, which is 2 days after my birthday, so send all cupcakes and donuts to my house directly.
Duly noted.
And can I get a second on that?
Second. Happy birthday, too.
Yes, it's a national holiday.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay, we'll go to roll call vote.
Councilmember Davis,
Did you say Councilmember Davis?
yes.
Aye.
I should have done you last. I was thinking first would be easier. Councilmember Camus,
Yes.
Councilmember Arenas,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Jones,
Yes.
Mayor Liccardo.
Yes. Okay, great.
Motion to note and file.
That is on item E. Yes, Councilmember Camus made an anticipatory motion to note and file. Is there a second?
Okay.
Any cards?
No, there's no card. Let's vote on that item, Tony.
Councilmember Jones,
Aye.
Councilmember Reyes,
Yes.
Camus,
Yes.
Davis,
Aye.
Mayor Licardo.
Aye. Okay. All right. We don't have much on this agenda, do we, except number 2, which is proposal from council members Esparza, Carrasco, and Arenas. And that relates to the paid sick leave ordinance. I know we had some discussion last week. I've since submitted a memorandum as well that reflects my thoughts as well. I know staff has submitted a memorandum as well. And I think we're hopefully going to bring this to some conclusion before the council at the next council meeting. We have several members of the community who would like to speak. Cristina Vida Gutierrez, followed by Connie Alvarez and Jeffrey Buchanan. Is Christina here? Oh, come on up, Christina. If you could speak at the microphone, it's great.
English?
Okay, thank you.
Hello, my name is Cristina Vitia Gutierrez. I am a Mexican-American woman who opened her business 2 years ago. My parents were farm workers, and when my mother became ill with cancer from pesticides from the fields, I stopped going to school to take care of her. I was only 11 years old going to school. I was only 11 years old and was still difficult to go to school, but not impossible. I cared for my mother for 5 years, fighting for cancer. I was a single mother with 3 children, working hard to survive to make ends meet. But I had a dream. I have a small business that provides commercial janitorial cleaning. I decided to start my business to spend time with my family because my job was causing long hours and stress to my family. Right now, my business is slow. It's not generating income. And my employees know how critical this is in the crisis. There are no working hours to give them. I give what I can. I also gave them the city San Jose resources that are available for this crisis. I was thinking of giving them a bonus, but I can't because I have business lease loans to pay and eventually IRS taxes. My husband, not earning income, he has stopped working. So now we are depending on my 2 children to support our home, pay our rent, bills, and personal expenses. I have to save every penny because I don't know how long this will last. It's scary not to know if my business will continue or recover. And as hard as it is to say this, paying 2 weeks of mandatory sick pay will be a financial burden. So please, do not move forward with mandatory sick pay because it puts me out of business. Staff will no longer have a job, and I won't have a job. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome, Ms. Alvarez.
Good afternoon. My name is Connie Alvarez, and I represent 3 businesses on Santa Clara Street. And I'm here to find out more about the proposed sick pay leave. I know right now it's 3 days that we are mandatory by law to give to our employees, but with the situation that's happening, I wanted to know how is this going to help our employees and our businesses. I also belong to the Allen Rock Santa Clara Business Association. I'm vice president. And we represent 230 businesses that are from Allen Rock all the way to Santa Clara Street, which are small businesses that only have 5 employees. I mean, we're not making any money right now. So I'm here to get the information that that's gonna help us and help our employees also because we're in it together.
Thank you very much. Mr. Buchanan, and after Mr. Buchanan, I know we have an overflow room where Jeff, Christina, Ronald, Ronald Benson and Grace Lau are also here to speak, and so I'd ask them to come up in whatever order is appropriate.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I'd like to thank the mayor for his submission this morning. Certainly, council members Arenas, Esparza, and Carrasco for their proposal. Thank you all for joining the growing movement of San Jose residents that want to see some kind of paid sick leave move forward. We have a unique opportunity as a city. The federal government has offered for businesses with less than 500 employees to be able to provide 100% repayment on a quarterly basis through tax credits, fully refundable, through payroll taxes for those that provide up to 14 days of paid sick leave. It's a unique opportunity. We have a unique challenge. Let's not miss the moment to do everything we can in this hour to stem the tide. I think it's important to think that this is a virus that doesn't discriminate. It doesn't discriminate by the number of employees an employer has. It doesn't discriminate by what your HR handbook says you should have in maximum accrual. It doesn't discriminate by whether a particular employer misclassifies folks as independent contractors who should be employees. We need a policy that reflects the public health challenge, and that means being very specific about finding, yes, we want to support our small businesses, but if they have an opportunity to be able to seek a refundable tax credit on a quarterly basis, let's protect the community and the health of our business owners and of our employees by supporting, yes, let's require this, but let's help folks who need help with liquidity. We have philanthropy. We have $350 billion in SBA loans that are going to be put forward by the federal government. There are ways to make people whole. Additionally, there's some technical fixes that we sent some ideas in a memo, and we'll send some more. I think we just want to make sure that our businesses are able to recoup dollars, and so trying to align some of the accrual ideas in the mayor's memo with some of the ideas that were in the federal piece. Since there's still regulations to be made, I think we want to keep as close as we can on some of these technical questions of how many hours does an employer of various means get, and the question of, for those with existing plans, how do we kind of measure what's kind of appropriate? So thank you so much.
Thank you. Mr. Christina, if you can hear us.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. Jeff Christina from the Business San Jose Chamber PAC. I'm here again just to try and help you guys recognize that this is going to be extremely burdensome for the small businesses, the businesses in the community. We are in this together, the businesses and the residents, our employees. And we're doing what we can to try and protect our employees. And having more burdens on top of what we already have to deal with for current regulations, and having no income coming in, having the expenses and protections that we're trying to do to maintain the employees that we have as people are getting fired is extremely challenging. So I would like to see, too, I've been spending a lot of time trying to find unemployment numbers. Seeing last week that within 2 days, the state's unemployment doubled from where it was previously, really gave a pretty good idea as to some of the implications that are happening throughout the city, county, and the state. It's been nearly impossible to find that information. So if we could be able to get that, it could move forward. But for the most part, I really hope that you guys would be able to stop this, and I could go back to work and try and continue to ensure that my employees have a job coming in the future.
Thank you, sir. Ronald Benson?
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council people. Dr. Ron Benson, I'm a local chiropractor. I've been practicing in Berryessa for over 34 years. As a doctor, we all reach out to help people where we can. So I want to thank you for looking at this thing, because trying to take care of the people that need help right now is just, I thank you for looking at that. Hopefully this crazy time will pass sooner rather than later. But I also want to ask you to look at this as a small business. Next week, April 1st, I have to wake up make payroll, make rent, make my other payments. My business right now is down about 70% from where it was 2 weeks ago. At least I'm still open. I'm providing essential health care by the state of California and the federal government. So many of these businesses are already closed down. I hope that they'll be able to reopen. How long can this thing go on with no income? And I totally want to thank you again for looking out for the people that need financial assistance. But you have to also look out for these small business people. In my practice, I've had at least 40 families move out of the state in the past year due to financial concerns. If you noticed, most taxes did not pass in this last election. People can't afford this. A small business cannot afford to have additional mandated payments. We need to provide for our employees. I'm trying to keep my employees employed. I'm trying to keep myself employed. At least I'm open. So I ask you to really not just consider the people that are out of work, that need sick pay. And remember, the governor has waived the week on unemployment, the week on disability. They can get immediate payments. So please take into account the whole
Thank you, sir.
business environment. We cannot provide for people this mandated.
Thank you, Doctor. Thank you, Doctor. Grace Lau? Dr. Lau, are you there?
They're wiping the microphone.
Oh,
Thank
okay,
you.
sorry.
Thank you very much. I'm also a chiropractor, Dr. Grace Lau. Been in practice for a couple of decades, and it's always a struggle when you're a single business owner and with all the taxes that we have to pay and payroll taxes, and then asking us to pay for 2 weeks of paid sick leave would be an undue burden. As Dr. Benson said, his practice is down, my practice is also down. We do provide essential health care because people need to get their nervous systems realigned because we got to keep them off those opioids. We've got a lot of patients, I personally have a lot of patients who've lost jobs during this time and can't afford to pay, so we're actually paying them pro bono. But I still have bills. We still have bills to pay, and to ask us to pay more for this paid sick leave will be very difficult. And I'd hate to shut my doors. And I know I have other colleagues that are in the same position. Thank you.
Thank you. Philip Dieter?
How do you do? I'm Dr. Phil Dieter. I wanted to address the committee here regarding the significant burden that I see in complying with this type of mandate. As it stands right now, the federal law 6201 does create an exemption for small businesses, and I'd like to address the tax credit that keeps getting brought up. There are exemptions potentially for small business owners, but the way that those small business owners would go about that and the paperwork that would be required to apply for that, I don't even think is reasonable to consider at this point, or I'm not looking at it as feasible to consider. The tax credits themselves, while that is somewhat of a concession, the dilemma would be how would you apply for a tax credit if you were out of business? So a tax credit's not going to do you any good if your doors can't be open. And so I don't necessarily see that as a reasonable fix to the 2-week mandatory sick leave on the state level or on the federal level and or here on the local level. The ease I'd wanted to share with you of trying to get an SBA loan. I've been trying to do this now for over a week and a half. I've been out in front of this. I'm leading from the front on this from my profession, from my colleagues, from my fellow business owners. The ease of getting an SBA loan is astronomical. I'm still working on a week and a half trying to file an application, trying to get somebody from the small business committee to actually return my call and help me with the application. So that is, again, what I do not consider a reasonable fix at this point, and something that is being shifted to the small business owner who's really trying to focus on keeping their business open and take care of their employees. I'm very conflicted about this because my employees, I feel like they're part of my family. And if I have to let them go, which may be the reality, if something to this effect goes through, that'll hurt me on a personal level as well as a business level. And so I know there's things out there like the work sharing program by the EDD where you can keep your employees employed and then also help them get unemployment, but this would be too much of a burden in my opinion.
Thank you, Doctor. Adolfo Gomez. Welcome, sir.
Hi, everyone. Hope everybody's doing good today, but I was not supposed to speak about it or talk about this, but I've been hearing what's going on. When I let my employees go 10 days ago, because we closed, we're not going to be able to be open in the area we are. So when I told them we're closing the doors, hopefully this goes soon, they asked me how long this is going to be, and I said, I don't know. My goal is to save mezcal. Why? Because without mezcal, they will not have a job, I will have no job. Right now, if this pass, literally I cannot write checks. Not only me, but I represent a lot of the downtown historic district small businesses, and that's what I'm here for, to get information exactly what's going on. I've been trying to work with the SBA loans, no response. I'm in the same thing. So I know they say it's going to be credits, but at the same time, what credits are we going to get as a business if we're not even open? If our cash flow is not there? We don't know if we're going to meet lease or rent, PG&E, and it's so many more things. So I just would like you to consider then our goal as a small business is to save the business so we have jobs for these folks. 25 families depends on us, for me. So it was very hard to let them go temporarily, the way we say it. But our goal, I say, we need to save mezcal so everybody has a way to start making their own money, pay their own rents, and pay their own ends. Thank you.
Thank you, Adolfo. Appreciate all the folks who came forward to speak today in the community. And I've had a lot of feedback as well as we reached out, and particularly to small businesses, to understand how this would or would not impact them. So I just want to clarify a few things before we move on. First, there is already a federal mandate. There's a federal mandate that all businesses provide 80 hours of paid sick leave. There are some odd holes in that mandate. One for businesses that employ more than 500 employees. That is utterly puzzling to me as to why there would be a hole. That is no requirement for large businesses. And there is a potential exemption for businesses under 50 where they show hardship. I don't believe that's a blanket exemption. Is that right, Suzanne? It's, yeah. So even small businesses who think they might be exempt, there's a good chance you may not be, because it's a process, I assume.
Correct, and the Department of Labor has just issued a little bit of guidance yesterday saying that the regulations are going to be forthcoming for small businesses to apply to see if they can fall within the exemption.
The hardship, right.
Yeah.
Okay. So I just want everyone to understand sort of what the playing field looks like right now based on the FFCRA, which is the law that passed just in the last couple of weeks. I'm very mindful, I think, as Dr. Dieter mentioned, that the tax credits are hardly the solution. We need to do everything we can to help make it easy for folks to be able to qualify, assuming they can use a tax credit. We know that only helps if you actually have revenue, net revenue, and that's not a reality for many of our businesses right now, so we have to be mindful of that. And how do we make it easier for folks to get access to small business assistance loans and other programs, including the philanthropic program we have through SiliconValleyStrong.org with some corporate contributions. So we obviously need everything we can as a city to help ease that burden on small businesses. And I know Adolfo Gomez, who I know well, and it obviously breaks my heart to hear that their doors are closed. We know this is the reality for so many of our small businesses right now. But my understanding is under the current federal law and under what we're proposing, there would not be an impact for a business that's not operating. This is only for essential businesses that are, in fact, employing people. The point of this is not to provide regulation to business or to create new labor regulation. The point of this is strictly addressed to the health impacts that we are concerned about as a result of people coming to work who might be sick, who might be transmitting the disease. And so This is simply a public health mandate. If people are not showing up to your workplace, either because they're able to work from home or because your workplace isn't open, as I understand it, there would be no paid sick leave, because obviously people aren't working. That's not a condition under which they would earn or be entitled to sick leave. The point of this is to provide assurance so that any employee who is facing that choice of knowing they either are going to have to stay home and forego a paycheck or show up at work potentially infecting others, make the right decision and stay home. And that's the intent here, at least in terms of my intent. I assume that's the intent of the framers who brought this forward, who we'll go to in just a moment. And that is where we're trying to be focused. So I appreciate the concerns that Adolfo has raised. I know I've heard from many others, and I'll just raise a couple of those points, particularly about whether or not there's going to be some payout of this paid sick leave on termination, and that my understanding is if we're doing this for a public health mandate, that is not the point of this, so there would be no payout. This is simply to ensure that people get paid if they're sick. This is not a windfall to someone that may get a sick leave payout after they're done with their work. It would apply to folks who qualify for sick leave under the bases identified in the FFCRA federal legislation. That includes, very broadly, folks who may be caring for children, for example, who are no longer able to go to daycare or school. So obviously it's very broad, should apply very broadly, but there are 6 bases that are identified in the FFCRA legislation. I think it would be a good idea for us to stick to those because there may be issues that are unrelated here, and that's not what this is about. And I know there were some questions that folks had around one of the exemptions that I had suggested, and that was the second exemption relating to businesses that are not essential and therefore are not operating. The point is of that exemption is that if someone doesn't have to show up to work anyway, there's no point in providing paid sick leave. That's the whole point of that. And I've also heard broadly from businesses who are concerned about how we define what the PTO, the personal time off, is for purposes of that minimum exemption. And I don't pretend to know exactly what the right level is. It's 180 hours. I think 160 hours, I believe, is the number we used, but that's certainly subject to further discussion, I'm sure. But the idea is that it would include the combination of all the paid sick leave, vacation, other time off that's paid, so that if an employer is clearly offering a robust set of time off, paid time off benefits, then we ensure that as long as that employee has access to those benefits, then the employer would not be required to do something more. The point is to enable someone to stay home for at least a 2-week period, because we think that's what the latency and period of this illness is. So I just want to address some of those concerns because I know those and many others that have come up. And we will continue, I think, to be very responsive to concerns that people may raise about this, particularly small businesses. We know we have to be sensitive because there are far too many small businesses that are closing their doors right now. And there's opportunity for us to continue to tweak this between now and whenever it might get to council, assuming it gets to council on the next council meeting, as I hope. So, Councilmember Esparza, I know that you and Councilmember Arenas work together to bring this forward. Would you like to jump in?
Sure, yes, and I believe Councilmember Magdalena Carrasco is calling in. Is she on? Okay.
Unless she speaks, we don't know if she's.
Okay, she was trying to call in, so hopefully she will come online. So I thank you, Mayor, for clarifying those issues because I think that was helpful. It sounds like there's a lot of misinformation out there about what this is. And why we're doing it now. I'd also like to clarify that we brought this memo forward on March 12th, prior to the county order and to the state order, kind of in anticipation of those things coming. We knew it would be an issue, and we already at that point had guidance around group events and things like that. I wanted to share a few things that Dr. Cody, the county public health officer, shared with us on a conference call with elected officials just prior to this Rules Committee meeting. And she said that
while this order has only been in effect for 8+ days, the better the compliance, the more this order will have an impact, particularly in reducing hospitalization. And she said it's critically important that everyone comply with the order to the greatest extent that they can. She also said the county is looking at tightening the order or extending it, which I believe the governor addressed and why he left the state order open-ended. And she said very explicitly, if you're developing symptoms, stay at home. If you need supplies, have someone get them for you. Do not mix and mingle. And so this issue is about saving lives, given this unprecedented challenge that we're all facing, and we are all in it together, whether we're a business, a worker, a government employee. I don't think coronavirus cares who you are, how many hours you put in. I wanted to bring up a couple of items, which is that workers do need sick leave now, and they need 2 weeks because that is the incubation period, given the guidelines by the county public health office and by the CDC. And so that's why specifically 2 weeks of sick leave is important, so that we can make sure that workers who need to stay home are able to, who need to stay home can stay home in order to save lives. And I also wanted to address very quickly that as a council, we've talked about the enormous challenges that this is placing on everybody, whether you are already struggling to make it or whether you have a micro business or a large or small business. This is a huge challenge. And so right now, under the stimulus package, in the Senate, it contains about $350 billion in loans for small business, and the House version contains $500 billion in loans and grants. And so part of what the City Council has talked about is being able to connect small businesses, how we can provide support to connect small businesses with those resources as much as possible. But employees of small businesses are just as likely to get sick as employees of large businesses. And I wanted to point out that these orders could go on. We don't know when this will end, and so I think we need to acknowledge the reality of that, and that this could go on for a while, as we recently did last week in the eviction moratorium. We looked at both short-term and longer-term timeframes. I think we need to keep that in mind as we talk about this. Estimates are that it may be 12 to 18 months before we see a vaccine. I certainly hope that does not happen, but that is something we need to be mindful of. And last night, the Senate came to, they passed an aid package that was unprecedented in the history of our country. And that now the House is going to be bringing, their version was a little bit more, but the House now then will bring that forward. And we don't know how long that will take, so we need to take action. But I just, for those that weren't sure, I just wanted to talk about what that is. That's $367 billion for small business loans and relief, $500 billion in guaranteed subsidized loans for larger industries, $50 billion for the airline industry, $250 billion for individuals and families, a $1,200 direct payment to Americans making up to $75,000 per year with $500 per child, $250 billion in unemployment insurance benefits, $50 billion in employee retention tax credits, $150 billion for hospitals and medical centers to handle surging caseloads, and there's more, including help for food stamps, health centers, HUD housing, and others. I think this is an issue of enormous magnitude, and we cannot wait. It falls, as usual, it falls on us in local government, where the town square, where the rubber meets the road, and we need to address it, and we need to do that as soon as possible. And so I'm asking that this item come up to council at the earliest possible convenience, which is April 7th. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Arenas?
Thank you, Mayor. First and foremost, I want to thank the Minority Business Consortium who collectively with the Health Trust and the Community Health Partnership supported the memo that was developed between Councilmember Esparza, myself, and Carrasco, who, from what I understand, is on the line and wants us to know that she's on the line, Tony.
Okay, we'll go to her after you.
Yeah. She keeps texting me.
Okay.
Okay, so what I wanted to say is really, I think it's already been said, already, I said it last week when I was calling in and I was on my way to a doctor's appointment of all things. And it was in Mountain View. I only went to Mountain View because that's the only place that they had, they were seeing patients, and it was a really large building. And when I went to the doctors, of course, they checked my temperature at the door, wouldn't allow me to go in through any of the hallways until my temperature was checked. And then it was checked once again once I checked into the actual office. And then, you know, ushered into a room. So then when I was in the room, I asked the medical assistant that was helping me, I said, you know, if you guys get sick, what happens? And she said, well, you know, we're going to have to use our PTO or our vacation time. And I thought, a health place is, you know, this corporation, because it is a corporation, it's a huge entity, is asking their employees to use their personal time or vacation if they get sick. If anybody should understand giving paid leave to employees should be medical providers, and medical providers that are open. From what I heard in some of the comments earlier, some of those medical providers aren't, their businesses aren't open, and so they wouldn't be required to pay any paid leave or sick paid leave for any of their employees. And so I want you to be rest assured that it wouldn't apply to you for those two medical providers that came in. But this is an incredible burden for our families. And I understand for our businesses as well, and that's why, you know, we're going to talk about a moratorium for evictions for small businesses as well in our upcoming agenda. And we've also already talked about it. We've talked about being very supportive of our small businesses. I want to make sure they thrive. They're part of what makes San Jose unique. And I think more than, 40% of those are people of color, and I think 50% of those are born outside of the United States. So this is, you know, families who have immigrated to San Jose, who have worked really hard to check off that, you know, American dream, possibly open up their business and have a home and own a home. So I want to make sure that those businesses stay open. No doubt about that. But this is also a burden for our workers and our essential service workers. This crisis is really just pulling the curtain back on all of the inequities that happen with some of our service workers, and service workers that you and I see at essential services, like at the local market or at the doctor's office. We're realizing that these folks don't have paid sick leave. I didn't realize that. If I had known that this medical corporation wasn't providing paid sick leave to their employees, I might have not gone into that visit. And that's what we need to make sure that we ensure for our small businesses and those businesses greater than 500 is that we all represent residents. We represent 100,000, Mayor. You lead the whole city. And they're relying on us to make sure that the essential services that remain open are a safe environment. And we can't guarantee that if people aren't offered sick paid leave. They're just not going to they're not going to forego a paycheck. These are folks who are also being asked to have additional costs on them, because if they relied on school hours to mimic their schedule, work schedule. Now they have to find somebody else who is also has a safe environment to take care of their children, and they have to pay out of their pocket for that. Because as of yesterday, we're only really providing childcare for our essential service workers, which I think is great. We should be doing that. As a city, we should be leading in that. But there's a lot of low wage paid workers that don't have employers like the city of San Jose and aren't leading this way and aren't thinking about some of those additional costs those families are facing. And so when I hear it's a burden for businesses, I'm empathetic to that, and I want to make sure that you know that I'm going to be as supportive as I can for those small businesses and to make some of those exceptions or ensure that there's resources for those businesses. But those workers that are out there are frontline folks who are putting their health at risk for us. And I think the very least that we could do is make sure that we have this sick paid leave. And so I've got to say, Mayor, that I'm really happy with your memo. I think there's still some conversations to be had, but I'm really happy to see that you, right from the start, started with an immediate grant of 40 hours of sick leave. And that is an absolutely, I think, what needs to happen. I also agree with item number 2, although I think it does get a little complex in terms of what the accrual rate is. For the first bullet under number 2, it says any employer that has already enacted a policy that provides a maximum paid personal leave of 160 hours, including PTO and vacation. But we don't, and this to me is for some of those big employers, larger than 500, that we know already have really great vacation and PTO time, right? We don't need to bother them. And so I want to just make sure that it's not some of the businesses that may have an employee working for 50 years and now they're at the 160
Right.
hours,
Yeah, agreed.
but that there is a reasonable accrual rate is what I'm trying to get at. And I think that there could be another option under number 2. So that your first option stating the 160 hours, and for me, I just need to know the accrual rate, or to have, or if they don't want to worry about the accrual rate or what's the rate, and now they have to create a whole system to figure that piece out, maybe what we could say is we can give a third option, like if an employer just wants to give the whole 80 hours, the 2 weeks, and just take care of it that way. I'm sure that there's some employers who will be open to that option and not having to worry about the second option of accrual rate. So the 40 hours, and then the additional 40 hours that they can accrue up to 80, a cap of 80. So that second 40-hour accrual, we could forego that if we just said, hey, if you want to just give the whole 80 without having to work out any accrual, then that could be an option. I don't know if employers would go for it, but I think we could have an additional option there. I think, this is, I think this is a good proposal. I think, we want to make sure that it also adheres to some federal guidelines, and so we can continue the conversation, but I think it's, I really appreciate this memo and you putting this forward, Mayor. It shows that you were listening to a lot of the concerns that were spoken last week with so many comments that came in support of our memo, and in overall in sick paid leave, because we know how important it is. Now we know that studies show that the virus can live on different types of surfaces for different types of hours, and we also we didn't know that before, and so we need to make sure that essential service workers are as healthy as they can be when they are working and offering that service.
Thank you, and thank you to you and your colleagues for bringing this forward a few weeks ago. I think Councilmember Carrasco's on the line, is that right?
I am. Can you hear me?
We can, thank you.
Okay. Let's hope that the audio is fixed this time. I know that this is challenging to call in this way, but I thought that this was really important to be able to chime in. And as you've heard from my council colleagues, we've spoken with different folks, hearing the different concerns, and I'm listening to the folks that just spoke a minute ago, who are business owners. Of course, we patronize and we love mezcal and hate the idea that because of everything that's happening, they have suddenly had to close their doors down. What I want to say first and foremost is that I've been supporting our small businesses throughout the city of San Jose, especially those who are micro businesses, since day one when I took office. As you all recall, we had a huge issue that took place up and down Alum Rock Avenue, really threatening the livelihood of many of our business owners when we had some major infrastructure that created some challenges and really threatened many of those businesses to shut their doors down, and in some cases not just temporarily but potentially permanently. These were businesses that have been characteristic of the neighborhood, businesses that have been there for generations, and we're facing very difficult times. As a result, Mayor, because of your advocacy and Supervisor Chavez's and myself, we were able to acquire almost $2 million from VTA in order to keep our businesses afloat until all the construction was over and done with. For some, that was a lifeline that they needed. It was enough to keep them open, and it was enough to really demonstrate that we were there and we had their back, and we really believed in the products and services that they provided for the city of San Jose and for our community. And so I want to make sure that I'm crystal clear, hopefully through the audio, that I support small businesses. And I know that that right now we're facing challenges unlike anything that many of us have ever seen in our lifetime. These are unprecedented times. It's a moment of crisis that I hope we're all with a clear understanding that we're in it together. And so do I believe that at the end of all of this, we'll come out of it maybe a little scarred up and bruised? I do think so, but I do think that we'll be able to still survive it if we pull together and not turn on each other. And I think that this memo is also an attempt to be able to do that. What we do know about this virus and it's an ever-evolving, changing predicament that we are facing is that it's in constant flux. But what we do know is that we all are suddenly part of an interesting domino effect. Whatever one person does, suddenly, 2, 3, 4 blocks down the road, another person feels it. And so I don't want my residents who work in restaurants or in small micro businesses to show up because they don't have a means to support themselves and are feeling forced to go, even though maybe they're feeling under the weather, not sure if they've been exposed or if they're going to test positive, and then suddenly exposing others, whether it's their coworkers or their own clientele. And when I think of our small businesses and who they're serving, the question I ask is, as much as a burden as it feels like right now, what kind of a burden is it going to be when we're ready to reopen our doors and our clientele or your clientele, your customers, are not there because they're sick or, God forbid, they've taken a turn for the worse and are definitely not going to show up? Or you don't have any workers because they're sick or their family members are sick, or God forbid, their lives have been taken from them. And so this is really an attempt to give them some relief and some ease of mind so that they don't have to make those choices and so that they don't have to continue to exasperate an already overwhelmed system, not just in terms of the public health system, but really a community that is starting to really feel the impacts of a world that was not ready for what we are seeing. in a world that was not really believing what we are now experiencing until now. And so I'm hoping that we can move this forward to the full council for a full and robust discussion. I want to reassure the small business owners that this is no attempt to further burden your load. I'm fully committed to really look at options on how we're going to support you and help you come out of this as whole as possible. But we do need to make sure that you're safe, that your clients and customers are safe, and that your employees are safe, because we're in it together, and it is a domino effect that we're trying to mitigate more than anything. So I want to thank you also, Mayor, for all of your advocacy for small businesses. I know that you've been really out front and center, and everything that you've been really pushing forward as this crisis has really hit the city of San Jose and the county. I've been, I can't remember a time when I've been more proud to be in the middle of all of this, and with the colleagues that I have and with you at the helm. So I want to thank you, and thank you for your memo, but I do hope that we can move it forward and have a conversation at the dais with the rest of my colleagues.
Thank you, Councilmember. Okay, back to our panel. Councilmember Kimmis?
So, and I agree with much of the sentiment that my colleagues have stated, and I especially commend them for thinking about small businesses. I've owned a small business, so I'm uniquely qualified here to tell you what a small business feels like. And I can tell you that small business has felt like they've been under attack for years, especially in San Jose and California with all the laws, AB 5, subcontracting laws, and all the taxes going up. But here, we're talking about having small businesses pay for, well, I'm going to focus on small businesses because I really don't care about the 500 and above, and I agree with you wholeheartedly with your memo, Mayor, on asking them to do their part for that's a no-brainer for me. So I like many parts of your memo. But small businesses have additional burdens that big businesses don't have. They don't have staff to deal with HR and all the other resources. They don't have just like huge amounts of backup in their accounts for rainy days like this, and many of them don't know when it's going to stop raining, quite frankly, here. And this virus, while I think that we are all going to recover from this virus eventually, we don't know that our small businesses are going to recover from this downturn in the economy, and we don't know if they're ever going to get their clients back, or if they're going to have enough reserves around to pay for. I heard May is the new time frame now that we're not going to allow businesses to open and or to operate at this emergency level. What I don't think we need to do, like I said, I appreciate the mayor's memo. I don't know that we need to have this discussion because, number one, I think that Congress has already written this law, and we have to comply by it. And I don't think micro-tuning 40 hours and 80 hours and getting into the weeds, I think Congress laid it out pretty good. I don't know if you read, Mayor, the letter from Hopkins and Carly that came out in their description of how to comply. I made that available to the council, I think, as of yesterday. Should be in your packets. But the Congress described the funding that businesses have to pay. Congress described the how to get credits for it, and Congress also described that they would like to see the Secretary of Labor exempt employers of 50 and under. That's all in the assessment from Hopkins and Carly. And I could tell you something else as a small business. Small businesses don't like different regulations from different entities. Right now, they're trying to comply with state law, federal law, and if our laws, let's say that you have a a small business in Los Gatos and you have one in San Jose, if you have to have two separate payroll systems and two separate compliance things, it just makes things harder. It just makes, if the regulations are so difficult from vicinity to vicinity, it just makes things harder to live with and harder to operate your business. So I also want us to look at unintended consequences. This might be the most righteous law that we've ever seen. However, as a small business owner, if I think that we're going to be overly regulated, I might move to Los Gatos, I might move to Campbell, or to make it really easy, I just might shut my doors and lay off my employees and have my employees be part of the unemployment line. And that's what I'm afraid of. If we make things very difficult for an employer, they will, instead of trying to help their employees overcome a sickness or trying to, like I know most employers are trying to keep their employees. None of us who are employers want to see good employees leave, ever. Because if you train an employee and you love their work, we don't want to see them leave. And we do our best to try to keep them employed. And so making more regulations on small business is not going to help them. It'll be much easier for small businesses just to lay off people and then try to hire them back later if there's a whole lot more mandates. So at a minimum, if we are going to go down this path, I think we should do the same thing that Congress wrote in the bill itself, that we should be exempting businesses under 50 employees. I personally don't even think we need to reinvent the wheel. If Congress is handling it, Congress is handling it, except for making sure that businesses above 500 fall into this mandate. I think that's clear to me. It should be a mandate. And again, I appreciate the fact that this is an emergency situation. But we shouldn't do these emergency regulation might have longer term unintended consequences that I've been afraid of since I first saw this piece of legislation. And last week, when I made the suggestions that this should be for emergency operations, the writers of this bill were very unhappy with the situation. In fact, we were told that they were unhappy. But even this, I think, this might be too much regulations unless we exempt businesses under 50 or below. So those are my thoughts. As a business, first and foremost, I was a business owner for 20 years before I became a council member. So I do know what it's like to own a business, a small business, in fact. Right now, the firm that I used to own still has 5 employees. They're all working from home. We do pay them sick leave if they've worked for us for more than 6 months, but we don't grant that. We don't grant that for somebody who walked in the door immediately. And so there's a lot that goes into running a small business that my colleagues may not be aware of, and the fact that we have lost over the last, the small business has lost maybe 30% of the revenues coming in. Nobody thinks about that. And so, again, I just don't want additional burdens on small businesses. If we want to talk about businesses above 500, I will sign that memo right today. But if we're talking about chiropractors and mom and pop faux shops and taquerias and things like that, I don't think we should be. They're operating on a skeleton crew, trying to do takeout only, and they're not going to be able to afford new mandates, and that's what I'm afraid of. So those are my words. Thank you.
Thank you. Vice Mayor?
Thank you, Mayor. I apologize. I don't have a speech to give, but I just want to just give some of my thoughts. First of all, I used to be a small business owner and ran a business where I had a $200,000 a month payroll. And I could tell you about the times when I was lying in bed, staring at the ceiling, not being able to sleep because we were trying to figure out how we were going to make payroll. If you have a customer or two customers who are late in paying on their invoices, you have an immediate cash flow problem. But we always made our payroll, but sometimes it meant that we didn't get paid until later. So I know what it's like to be a small business owner. I also know what engaging with our Small Business Advisory Task Force and getting the input from them, I also know the challenges that they have to overcome as well. And we're constantly getting input from them about the business environment. So I'm intimately familiar with what's going on with small business. But I also am intimately familiar with what's going on with our residents and the challenges they're having and the decisions that they have to make in terms of, do they go to work if they're sick or not feeling well or the child's not feeling well. So we're in an extraordinary situation, in an extraordinary time where we're going to have to make compromises. Workers are going to have to make compromises. Businesses are going to have to make compromises. And we're all going to have to work together and come together to work through this extraordinary situation. Mayor, I'm supportive of about 87% of your memo. But like everything else, right, the devil's in the details. And so over the next 2 weeks, there's going to be a lot of input, a lot of give and take in terms of crafting a memo and a proposal and an ordinance that's going to have guardrails in it to protect our small businesses, and also access to resources, whether it's moving forward with our single point of contact for small businesses to direct them to the resources, or other avenues in terms of funds or resources that we can provide to help our small businesses survive and eventually, when this is over, thrive. So I'm going to support the memo, but again, there's a lot of, the devil's in the details. We got to work through some of these issues, but at the end of the day, if we have a final product that's going to support our workers, but also support our small businesses, then I think we'll have a good product to be proud of. So on that note, I want to make a motion to accept the mayor's memo.
Second.
Second.
All right, thank you. Thank you for the motion and the seconds. And just as a point of contact, Kim, who on your team would be the point of contact? So obviously, there are many suggestions for modifications and tweaks, which I know obviously this will need. Who on your team should they be talking to?
Yeah, Jeff Ruster is
Okay.
the lead of our small business unit in the Emergency Operations Center. I'm working very closely with him.
Great, thank you. Yeah, I appreciate the comments, Vice Mayor. This will need work. And I know that Kim is spending every day, I think, in the EOC, virtually or in reality, and so a lot of that team is being pulled into the crisis of the day. So we want to do everything we can as people have suggestions for changes, modifications, to ensure we communicate directly with Jeff. Obviously, I'll be limited within the people I speak with in the Brown Act. I just want to acknowledge something that Councilmember Cammons said, which is this is brutally difficult to do to small businesses at a time like this. There's no question that many small businesses in our city that have been the lifeblood of our community, and I say community, not just the economy, but the community. You think about Adolfo and his restaurant and the way that has been a community convening place. And it's not just because, they provide a business service or because they issue paychecks, although those are very important to a lot of families, but because it's important to the entire community that businesses like Mezcal thrive here. And the reality is many small businesses are going to fail in this, and this economy is going to be badly beaten by this pandemic. And our task, so we hope we'll be able to get to this task much sooner rather than later, is going to be around rebuilding and figuring out how we support all those small businesses and larger employers to help them get back on their feet. So I'm mindful that this is not easy for small businesses to swallow. I do want to emphasize my intention is to ensure this only applies to those small businesses, those businesses that actually have workers showing up at a work site. And if folks are working from home, then this shouldn't be necessary, and it shouldn't be necessary for those businesses that aren't able to open. I would also just add while we all have great empathy for the faux noodle houses, the taquerias that again are the lifeblood of our community, it's exactly those places where workers are working in close quarters, in small kitchens with many people close to one another, and they're serving food and they're making food. And that is, of course, a great concern to all of us as we think about the impact of this pandemic and the spread. And so that is why I'm reluctant to create any clear exceptions. I really punted the issue to staff. I know this is a hot potato wrapped in foil, so it's not a very fair punt, but I'm not that inclined to create an exemption because I think that this is one of those things where, hey, we've got a pandemic and we've got to do something about it. And unfortunately, it's many of those small businesses that are, in many ways, most engaging with the public on a daily basis. And so, you know, if there are exemptions that are created, we just have to be very thoughtful about that and mindful of what the impacts will be on public health. And I know the memo encourages a conversation with the county about that issue. So,
Hey, Mayor,
anyway,
can I
yes,
get a point
Vice
of
Mayor.
clarification? It was brought up about payroll taxes, and if you're out of business, you're not going to be able to pay payroll taxes. You're actually required by law to pay those taxes, whether you're in business or out, as well as making your payroll. So every business is going to be responsible for paying those payroll taxes. So that's more incentive for them to want to participate in the federal program, because they're not going to be able to get out of paying those taxes.
Yeah, I guess what I was referring to is if we don't have a payout for sick leave.
Right, I wasn't talking
Yeah.
about your comment. There was a comment
The
from-
different one. Oh, I
Yeah.
see.
You're talking about the 551 credit a day per employee
Right.
is the tax credit, and it's a payroll tax credit.
Right,
I
fair
think
point.
the vice mayor's correcting some misinformation out there.
Oh, I see. Thank you for correcting that.
And also, the other part of that too is if your payroll taxes are less than whatever you paid out in sick leave, you actually would get a refund from the IRS as well.
Okay, good information. And thank you for that, Vice Mayor, and I'm sure that will be one of our lead messages as we communicate with small businesses about this issue. Councilmember Camus?
Mayor, I'm hesitant
Mayor,
to.
one,
I'm sorry, just one moment, Councilmember. Councilmember Camus has the floor, and then we'll come back to you.
Yeah,
thank you.
I would be more supportive if I can get the exemptions, and I know that I know that the businesses that you're thinking about are handling food or what have you. However, if we put these, right now they're barely staying open. If they don't stay open, then they don't have to comply with this law. So again, my fear is unintended consequences, that these people will, rather than comply with our new regulation, will actually just say, I'm just not gonna make food today. I'm not gonna make the sandwiches or whatever. I don't know if you guys walk down Santa Clara. I tried to get lunch the other day, and there was 3 restaurants open in the whole town, downtown. After this regulation, we may not have any, because it would be easier to not comply with this and shut down, because they're not making that much money anyway. And so unless there's an exemption for restaurants or businesses under 50, I will not be supporting it, because it will hurt those small businesses. Whether we intend to hurt them or not is a different question. I know none of us intend to hurt these businesses. But in fact, I think that could be the unintended consequence.
Councilmember Carrasco?
It was Councilmember Davis.
Oh, Councilmember Davis, I'm sorry, forgive me. Councilmember Davis.
I agree that it is and I know, we all know, it is a stressful time for our small business owners. And I don't think a single one of us wants to burden them further unnecessarily. And I think that's the main point here. It is so important for us to acknowledge that our current public health concern is completely tied to our economy. And what I mean by that is that the longer this drags on, the worse it will be for our economy. And what that means for us is that we need to mitigate the spread of the virus to the greatest extent possible right now. And in terms of essential workers, I hear what you're saying, Councilmember Camus, but I respectfully disagree. Essential workers who are sick must stay home. And we have to do all that we can to make sure that happens, because the worker at a restaurant who doesn't have paid sick leave, who is not unemployed, doesn't have an unemployment check coming to them. That means if they don't work, they don't get paid, if there's no sick leave. And it's up to us, because I think we all know that the federal government has been much slower to respond than our own public health department, and that our own local and regional bodies have been to respond to this crisis in the way that is best for all of our residents. Everyone knows how much I support our businesses and our small businesses in particular. But at this point, the best way to support them over the long term, because that's always how I'm making decisions, is to do everything we can to mitigate the spread of the virus now. And I think the way that the mayor's memo is worded does do that, and so I will be supporting it. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Mayor,
Any further-
I
yes.
just wanted to get some clarification. In your memo, you ask us to return back to the council on the 7th with an urgency ordinance. So I understand that you're all still talking about it.
Yeah, you can't
Is
have
that
the
still?
ordinance then, yeah.
So are you just
So-
sending it to the council for discussion before we bring an ordinance?
I guess you need a direction before you can have an ordinance. Is that what you mean?
That's
And-
what I'm asking, because
Yeah,
you do say
okay.
an ordinance, and I don't know that we have the direction yet, unless you,
Yeah, so I assume if we approved something and gave you very clear direction on that Tuesday, theoretically, an ordinance could be ready to go by the following week. Is that?
we could, yes, I mean, your memo outlines some items that would be in the ordinance, so we could start it.
Yeah.
With what you have on here, but my understanding is you all still want to continue to form the ordinance,
Yeah.
and so it would be difficult for us to get you anything with
Yeah.
any further information until that council meeting.
All right, it's a fair point. I won't ask you to do any mind reading. So, though you often do. So what we'll need is clear council direction by that Tuesday, and then hopefully expedited return with the ordinance. And certainly, we know it's going to take businesses time to comply, and the news will be out, I think, pretty clearly when the council votes. So we'll need to be doing our communicating anyway. So having that ordinance trail week probably will not affect things I would expect. I don't know, Dave.
Yeah, I think what you also will get from us, I think, some additional perspective, as much as we can provide on some of the discussion.
Okay, fair enough, good. Anything further? Councilmember Sparsi?
Is it possible to have a special meeting via Zoom, since we'll be meeting completely by teleconference by that point anyway, given the urgency of the public health situation?
When?
We did just loosen,
When?
well, we did just loosen up the Brown Act, right, requirements
Right.
relating to COVID yesterday, and
So you can't have a special meeting. When would you plan to have a special meeting?
could we have it
Next
next
Tuesday?
week? Tuesday's a holiday.
Next
Tuesday,
Tuesday.
and then the following, and then the same week have the special meeting to move forward and approve the ordinance, right?
So-
Because you're saying we need to have the meeting come to council for
Yeah.
discussion, one, and then two, approve the urgency ordinance, two, right?
Right, let me check in with Dave on this. So if we simply had the meeting only for this item, could we do that by Zoom or by virtual meeting?
You can, so long
Next.
as you have the mechanism and you have a way for the public to observe and comment.
We're doing a dry run on Friday, with a full Zoom meeting, a mock meeting with an agenda and everything. But Tuesday is a holiday. Oh, right. So, yeah.
Forgive me.
So, that's right. So April 7th is the council meeting, and then maybe April
Oh, right.
8th.
Yeah.
Maybe April 8th, have a special
All right.
meeting. Good point, thank you.
Just, checking in with Kim, does that give your team the time you need?
I suspect you're going to get less from us at that point.
Yeah.
But if that's, if the council wants to proceed with a special meeting on this one topic on Wednesday, I think from a technology standpoint, we can pull that off. I just think you'll get less from us in terms of input.
Yeah.
So like immediately after rules? Next Wednesday?
Yeah, we could just put it on as if it were, yeah, it would be
So-
immediately
So,
following.
so
rules.
just for clarification, so you won't discuss this on the 7th, you'll discuss it on the 8th?
Yeah, and maybe for ease, why don't we just have it precede rules? That is, we have it at the same time as rules. We have all council members present, and then council members can leave if they're not part of rules.
So are we talking about April 1st before the 7th or April 8th after the 7th?
That would be April 1st, I believe.
So April 1st and then April 7th, we approve the urgency ordinance,
That's
correct?
right.
That is the second step, okay.
So then 2 special meetings, the 1st and the 8th?
Well, the 8th we're having anyway, right?
Right.
And that,
Is it
yeah.
7th? It's the 7th.
7th, yeah, the 7th,
Seventh
yeah.
council meeting.
It would be at the regular council meeting, we approve the ordinance.
Okay, so April 1st, you have a meeting to discuss any further direction with regard to the ordinance.
Yeah.
Right.
So that on the 7th, you would have a draft ordinance. Is that
That's
the
right.
proposal?
And the 5th is my birthday.
We'll have to send you virtual bagels.
Virtual. Well, we should support our small businesses.
Right.
The bagel shop is open. Okay. Okay, so the maker of the motion probably would need to include that in the motion. So I'll ask Vice Mayor.
Yes.
All right, and that would be for an April 1st special meeting at this time during the Rules Committee with the ordinance to come back on the 7th.
That's correct.
Does that give you enough time, Ed?
We will try, yes.
Okay.
You have to look at the volume.
Yeah, yeah.
Not what they say.
Yeah, and we'll, in the future, we'll try to avoid doing this again, because I know this is a really challenge for, right now, for an organization focused on distributing food and a lot of other things. So we'll make this exception and hopefully not need to again. All right, on the motion, all in favor?
Aye. Oh, I forget to.
Oh, right, let's do the
Yeah,
roll
do the
call.
roll call.
Oh,
I'll be doing it as Tony stepped out.
okay.
Call.
Welcome, Henry.
I'm in charge. Let's see here.
Alexander Haig over here.
Mayor,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Jones,
Aye.
Councilmember Arenas,
Yes.
Councilmember Camus,
No.
and Councilmember Davis.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, so that moves forward. All right, thank you, everyone. We'll move forward then to the item 3, which is cancellation of committee, board, and commission meetings. I know no one takes joy in doing this, though probably some mixed emotions. Is there a motion?
So moved. Second.
Move approval.
Okay, there's a lot of motions. I'll take Councilmember Camus's with a second from Vice Mayor.
This item will also need to go to the council since you're ratifying an action by the city manager under his emergency authority.
Okay. We're not canceling planning commission meetings, are we?
No, we're not. We're not canceling planning commission meetings. Sorry, my mind had to catch up.
Yes, there are certain things under the charter that planning commission has to take action, and there are also certain actions that the council has to be the appellate body. So in those instances, they're meeting, but my understanding is that they're going to be doing it all virtually.
Okay. It does enable you to order cancellation of planning commission by the language of this, but we're not necessarily saying they're all off.
Right, and in the memo, we
Okay.
said that we're gonna keep them on.
Oh, I see. Okay, thank you. I'm sorry for not reading that. Okay. On the motion, Henry?
Vote. Mayor,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Jones,
Aye.
Councilmember Arenas,
Aye.
Councilmember Camus,
Aye.
Councilmember Davis.
Aye.
All right, that motion's approved. We're on to open forum. No
No
one
cards.
would like to speak. We have no cards. Meeting's adjourned. Thank you, everybody. Stay healthy.